Dearest Void, writing to you today, not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as someone addressing a long-time companion, the oldest and perhaps the most loyal of them all. You don't announce your arrival, but I always know it's you. You smell like Sunday afternoon after the guests have left. You sound like a phone that never rings. You're the extra space at the dinner table, the echo in the hallway of a house that used to be fuller. People fear you. They run from you. They fill you with noise, with work, with shopping, with binge watching, with anything to drown out your silence. And I get it, because, my friend, you sting. Your presence has the strange ability to drain the color from things, and achievement becomes just a fact. A laugh turns into merely a sound that soon fades away. You arrive and install this icy certainty that something fundamental is missing. It's not a sharp pain, not a scream. It's an absence that weighs more than any presence. But, and this is the hardest part to admit, maybe you're not the villain of the story. Maybe in the midst of a world that screams for attention, that demands productivity and constant happiness, you're the only thing that doesn't lie. You are the pause, the period at the end of a frantic paragraph. And I know that whoever's listening to me now knows this friend of mine too. Maybe he has a different name in your life. Loneliness, the blues, a lack of direction. But the feeling, that silent pressure in your chest, it's the same, isn't it? We run from it so much. But what if, just for today, we didn't run? What if we sat with it and asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" Hey there, restless soul of the internet. Yep. From our little letter at the beginning, you've probably figured out that today's chat is one of those that takes up a little more room inside, right? Welcome to the channel where we don't run from the chaos. Here, we sit with it, offer it a warm drink, and ask how its day was. So, settle your favorite existential crisis next to you like it was an invisible cat. Grab your coffee, your tea, your water, your shot of liquid courage, and let's go together. Because we only dive this deep if we're going to find something worthwhile down there. To develop this idea, let's invite one of the most fascinating thinkers of the 20th century. A French-Algerian Nobel Prize winner who looked at the void with an almost brutal clarity and yet found a reason to love life more than anyone. His name is Albert Camus. Camus gives us a fundamental concept: the absurd. For him, the existential void isn't a problem inside us, nor is it that life has no value. The absurd is a divorce. It's the inevitable clash between two things. On one hand, our desperate human need to find meaning, reason, logic, and clarity in the world. On the other, the universe's response, a cold, irrational, and indifferent silence. The void, for Camus, is the sound of that silence answering our cry for meaning. Imagine you're an actor on a stage looking for a dialogue. You shout your lines with all your passion, waiting for a cue, a response from the other side of the stage or from the audience. But there's no one there. The absurd is continuing to act with the same passion, knowing there will be no response. It's the tension between your desire for dialogue and the reality of the monologue. Camus' most powerful image for this is the myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to an eternally useless task, to push a boulder to the top of a mountain only to see it roll back down every time. This, for Camus, is the absurd hero. His life is, objectively, meaningless. There is no ultimate purpose, no victory. The void is the certainty that the stone will always roll. But here comes the brilliant twist. Camus says, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because the moment he descends the mountain, free from the weight of the rock, he is conscious of his destiny. He has no hope, but he also doesn't despair. He is superior to his stone because he knows it. His happiness doesn't come from an external purpose, but from his rebellion. His rebellion is to keep pushing. It's saying yes to life, even knowing its futility. Meaning is not at the top of the mountain. It is in the very struggle to get there. This reminds me of when I decided to learn how to cook a really complex dish, one of those that take days. I burned things, cut my finger, spent money on ingredients that I ruined. Several times in the middle of the process, the void came in the form of a question. What's all this for? It was easier to just order takeout. It was an objectively useless task in the grand scheme of things. No one was going to give me an award for it. But when I finally finished and tasted it, I understood Camus. The joy wasn't in the end result, but in the stubbornness of continuing despite the failures. It was my small and delicious revolt against entropy, my culinary Sisyphus. I created an island of meaning and pleasure in a universe that doesn't care if I can make bœuf bourguignon. And at that moment, that small act of defiance filled the entire void, finding joy in the struggle, not in the victory. That is living in an absurd and beautiful way. So, let's go back to our letter from the beginning, to that silent friend of ours, the void. We treat it like a personal failure, don't we? As if there's something wrong with us for feeling that absence, that lack of echo in the universe. But what if Camus is right? What if this void isn't a sign that you're broken, but proof that you're awake? Awake to the fundamental condition of our existence, that of a being who yearns for meaning in a universe that offers none on a silver platter. Feeling the absurd isn't a disease, it's a diagnosis that you are a sensitive and thoughtful human being. And here's the twist, the hug in the middle of the chaos. Maybe the void isn't the absence of meaning. Maybe it's the blank space that proves our freedom, the freedom of Sisyphus, who even with the certainty of the fall, chooses to push the stone with a smile of contempt for his destiny. The void is not the end of the story. It is the stage where our rebellion, our passion, and our humanity can shine brighter. And what this perspective offers us isn't a magic solution, but something much more powerful. Permission. You have permission to feel that discomfort of the absurd, the permission to shout for meaning and only hear silence. It doesn't diminish you, it makes you part of the human club. You have permission to have days when your stone is too heavy, days when the struggle seems useless. Sisyphus had them too. And you have, above all, the permission to find your happiness not in conquering the top of the mountain, but in the texture of the rock under your fingers, in the warmth of your muscles, in the beauty of your own effort, the permission to love the struggle, not the victory. The goal, then, is not to fill the void. It's to dance with it. It's to live with so much passion, with so much rebellion, and with so much love for the simple experience of being alive, that the silence of the universe becomes just an irrelevant background noise. Your life becomes the answer. Art is a conversation that crosses centuries. And if our conversation today has lit a flame in you, a desire to go deeper, I don't want to recommend a movie. I want to point you to the source itself. I want to build a bridge to one of the most powerful and, paradoxically, most hopeful novels of the 20th century.
My recommendation is the masterpiece, The Plague, by Albert Camus himself. If the myth of Sisyphus is the philosophical instruction manual, The Plague is the philosophy in flesh and blood, sweat and tears. The book tells the story of an entire city that is suddenly isolated from the world by a terrible epidemic. The plague in the book is the absurd itself incarnate. It is the irrational catastrophe, the suffering that comes for no reason, the universe in its most silent and cruel form. It's the void manifesting as disease and isolation. Faced with this, the citizens could give in to despair, and many do. But the hero of the story, Dr. Rio, embodies the absurd revolt. He has no hope of a miraculous cure. He doesn't believe that his struggle will change the cosmic order. He simply understands that the only decent response to suffering is to try to alleviate it. His fight against the disease is Sisyphus's stone. Every patient he attends to, every hour of sleep he loses, is the act of pushing the stone up the mountain. Reading The Plague today is incredibly resonant. It's a book that teaches us that the revolt against the void doesn't have to be a grand and lonely act. It can be found in solidarity, in mutual care, in the simple decency of doing your job well when everything around you is falling apart. It's not a book about victory, but about dignity in the struggle. It's a manual for staying human. If you want to understand how to transform the anguish of the absurd into action, this book is your guide. And now I want to pass the mic to you. The richest philosophy is the one we live and share. Camus taught us to find meaning in our struggle, in our daily stubbornness. So, my question for you to start our conversation in the comments is, in what small struggle or stubbornness in your day-to-day life do you find your greatest and truest meaning? It could be in a hobby, in your work, in caring for someone, in a small ritual. Share your story. Let's turn the comments into a great map of stones that are worth pushing. And speaking of work and meaning, this channel is my stone. Each script, each piece of research, each hour of editing is an effort that I love, but that requires immense dedication. If you find value and comfort in these conversations of ours and want to help me continue pushing this rock, consider becoming a member here on the channel. It is your direct support that allows me to dedicate time so that embraces like this can continue to exist. And before I go, an essential reminder. This video is a philosophical reflection, a tool for thinking. It does not replace in any way the help of a qualified professional. If the feeling of emptiness is paralyzing or causes intense suffering, please seek out a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Taking care of your mental health is your bravest and most important act of rebellion. Remember, the universe may be silent, but that only makes the music of our stubbornness sound even more beautiful. Until next time.